Okay, hello everyone. Very good afternoon to all. And this is Sonia Singh in front of you, and very warm welcome everyone on our channel Exam for IAS English Medium. I hope my voice is completely audible and the screen is completely visible, everyone. I hope everything is visible and audible, everyone. So everyone, very warm welcome everyone on the channel UPSC IAS English Medium. Hello Abhinav. See, so in today's session, we are just going to talk about the answer writing approach, and the answer writing approach is completely based on, we can say, on democracy. We will understand what is the meaning of democracy, how the democracy is actually working, and how you can correlate the word the democracy and the whole explanation of a democracy, not only in the context of the history but in the present time as well. Okay. Okay. So before going to start the session, everyone, I would just like to introduce with this with the slide. I hope this is completely visible to everyone. You can see different steps. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and 6 as well. So what you people can do, you can just simply go on the Play Store. You can just completely write down the exam for Sarkari Naukri app, and maybe sometimes the app is showing like this, and completely you can download the app and you can just go ahead with the registration. You can put it your name as well, and you can log in with the your password. You can also log in with your Gmail ID as well. So you have a if I'm talking about the app, this app is completely helpful for everyone, and by choosing the app you can just go ahead for the exam, whatever the exam you are completely preparing for in these days. Either the exam is completely one day basis, either the exam is completely based on the teachings, we can say, or the exam is completely based on the UPSC formation where you can get the free PDFs. You can take the guidance as well, you can ask your doubts, you can talk to the teachers as well. You have a numbers of the options, and so this app is completely helpful where you can test yourself on the daily basis. Fine. Okay. Abhinav, okay, you can just check your system once. Okay. Okay. So we are just going to start the session, everyone. I hope everyone is surely would like to install the app, and this install is completely helpful for their further preparation. In every session, whenever I'll start to do the answer writing approach, in every session I'll just try to introduce with the same slide, everyone, that how to practice a good answer writing, which is completely authentic. We can say the question for every UPSC aspirant who is going to appear in the mains examination, right? So this question is completely authentic, and this is not only the concern for the aspirant who is completely appear in the mains numbers of the time, several of the times, but specifically for those students as well who is going to appear in the mains examination as a beginner or the first time. Right. So I would just like to introduce in a very quick manner that what is the right way to how to you people can practice the good answer writing for the main specifically, and how you can make yourself more perfect to writing all these answers, and how you can choose the good approach, how can you choose the introduction, and what you specifically write down in the mid body section, and what is the right way to mention the conclusion as per the understanding with the question. So I'll just take a quick. Fine. So just move ahead, everyone. You can see on the Mr. Abhinav, my name is Sonia Singh and I am a faculty of history. I'm taking the current affairs session and I'm taking the history section as well. I'm already taking the world of world history as well. So you can go on the channel on the YouTube session and you can check the playlist as well. Fine, Abhinav. I think this is the enough introduction of the teacher to introduce with the students. I hope this session which I am taking on everyday basis is completely helpful for everyone, specifically for the students who are completely attending the lecture on the daily basis. You can get the PDF on the daily basis as well, right? So I hope this is enough introduction from my side, everyone. We are just going to introduce now the answer writing approach, that how you people can start the answer writing, and what is the right approach to choose the good answer writing while understanding the question as well. Fine. So as I always introduce you everyone, that it be specific with the syllabus. Syllabus is a very important for every exam, but specifically for the UPSC we can say it is completely more important. Why it is more important? Because UPSC is such a very we can say a very big exam in itself, and somehow definitely we can say it has already a very vast syllabus, and it is very difficult to decide from where we are just going to start to study the syllabus and where we will just going to be end ourselves, right? So it is a very important to understand everyone that how you people can specific with the syllabus. I can just only say that you people can choose the things very carefully. Don't try to be choose more and more sources that कि ये भी पढ़ लें वो भी पढ़ लें, right? ऐसा मत कीजिए, and be specific about the syllabus. Read the limited books, but ensure everyone that the sources that you are going to choose specifically for the preparation, the sources is completely authentic and relevant as per the examination point of view. Fine. And it is very important to understand the keywords of the question, and it is very important to choose the good approach of the question as well, and how you people can start the understanding the keywords. In the further slides, I would like to show you the questions first of all, and after that I would just like to start the democracy answer writing, specifically topic on the democracy, right? So it is very important to understanding the keywords, and for understanding the keywords it is very important to understand the question as well, that what is the question want to say exactly exactly. And it is very important to choose the good approach. Good approach means that when you completely understand the question, when you completely analyze the question, when you completely get the what the question is exactly want to say, and when you completely understand that what type of the things you can include what type of the vocabulary you have to choose while writing the answers. And it is very important to decide that from where you just want to start the answer. For example, if I am talking about the historical perspective, everyone, in the prelims prelims part, you can see one line, they are just mentioning one line about the history and the national movement. So whenever the question is asked on the national movement, or whenever the question is asked directly on the medieval history, it is very important to understand from where you are going to start your session, from where you are just going to start your answer writing as well. So in the good approach, it is very important to decide from where you are just going to start your answer writing. And good approach means when you completely decided that what you are going to introduce in the introduction, what you are going to introduce in the mid body, and how your introduction and your mid body answer writing presentation completely matching with the conclusion. Fine. So this is the we can say a sum up of the keywords and the understanding, and it is a very important to understand, and it is very important to Mr. Himalayan Yogi. See, I am not completely aware with your name, but whatever you mention on the screen, we can write the timeline in the introduction. Definitely, Mr. Yogi, definitely you can mention the timeline if the question is asking specifically on the timeline, right? It is completely dependent on you that you cannot what exactly you want to mention your answer. For example, in the history that I earlier told you, it is a very difficult to decide from where you are going to start your answer, and and what is the finishing point of your question. Fine. So that's why whenever the question is completely asked on a specific terminology, try to be avoid to put it more and more facts and information. You just completely want to inform the examiner that you have a very good relevant ideas of the question. While mentioning the timeline, it is a very important to no doubt that if you are mentioning the timeline, definitely timeline is somehow playing a very important and crucial role in the answer writing. And how and why it is playing the crucial and important role, because somehow it is providing you people, it provides you people the authentication in the answer that candidate have a very good knowledge about the question, and the candidate has a very good chronological sequences knowledge of the question as well. Fine. So how you can decide, everyone, that when right, I think Mr. Yogi, it is completely, you know, okay, it's completely clear to you. And whenever you mentioning the question when, how, what, where, why, and how, it is the screen is somehow mentioning you people that how it is a very important to mention about the approaches of the question, and how you can mention the approaches on the question, everyone. It is a very important to mention not only the approaches, but you have to be mentioned about the dimensions, right? Every question has different dimension. Sometimes the question is directly on ask on the facts and information, but if the question is completely or sometimes directly asked on the discussion and examination or critical analysis, so it is a very important to mention all the points which is mentioned on the screen, everyone, that you have to be put it and you have to be put it each and everything on the question of the question, that how the things is going to start, how you can mentioning about the interdisciplinary approach, how the question is completely dependent on the different dimensions, right? And how you people can completely choose the broad aspects and aspects of the question, and how you can choose that and how you can show in the question that how the things are completely correlated with each other. For example, if I would like to show you the screen, everyone, this screen is a very common specifically in my lecture whenever I am discussing the answer writing approaches, and why I am mentioning the different circles on the screen about social, about economic, about political, religious, cultural, we can say, and administrative, and the political history as well, because that I earlier told you, everyone, it is very important to mention that the each and every dimension of the question, and how you can mention each and every dimension of the question. Whenever first of all you have to understand the question, that what the question is exactly want to say you, and it is next thing, it is very important to understand the approach of the question, that what the question is exactly saying you, and how you can completely decide yourself that what you are completely mentioning in the introduction, in the introductory body, mid body, and the conclusion. So the social and the economic and the religious perspectives are completely helpful to the candidates, and especially for the students who are just going to appear in the mains exam. About the it is a somehow it's providing the the broad dimension of your question, if you are mentioning the different points and different headings of the social history, economic history, the political history, the cultural, the religious, right? And somehow when you completely somehow when you sometimes try to connect your question with the current affairs, and sometimes when you start to mentioning that how the question is providing the relevant aspects of the current aspects, and उसके साथ में future का इसका क्या more relevance है, when you completely try to be express in your answer, it is somehow providing the authenticity of the question. Right, everyone? So this is the steps of the question that you have to be practice every day and question each day to get you the required value addition, whatever the needed. For example, if I'm discussing about the economy, that ma'am is already taking the section on economy, lecture on the economy. So I feel so that ma'am is sometimes mentioning about the required the value additions. Value addition means if you are getting sometimes of the important facts and information that is completely going on in the present time, so completely you can add in the question whenever it will be needed. Fine. And confidence is surely enhanced when you start to practicing yourself on everyday basis. And each day to get you into the merit list, definitely if you'll start to following all these steps in a very fine and very we can say in a very important manner. And that this is your Exampur app, and definitely you can download the app, everyone. This app is completely helpful, everyone, as per your examination perspective. Fine. So this is the question, everyone. In this question, definitely I already told you that how you can choose the keywords, how you people can completely creating your good understanding with the question. And sometimes I already mentioning you to understand the question, the introductory body, the mid body, and it is very important to not only understand the question, but it is also very important to summarize the question as well. Fine. Now, so let's move ahead, everyone. These are the points that about not given the extreme views, read and understand the questions carefully, try to attempt the maximum numbers of the question, use the diagrams as well, and the intro, main body, and the conclusion. And it is very important to write down your information in the examination paper in the points, or sometimes you have to make the bullet points as well. Fine. So these are some basic points we can say while writing the writing the answers. Handwriting should be definitely readable, everyone. It is not mandatory that you have to be write in a very well manner. It is completely readable as per the need of the examiner. Fine. So just go ahead, everyone. I hope this is a very common information, that numbers of the time that I am giving you, because to just go ahead to write down, or sometimes it is just mentioning about the answer writing is not the enough task. Sometimes I feel for the students it is a very important to understand the basic ideas, basic concepts of the answer writing. If you people don't have any understanding of the basic concepts and basic ideas of the questions, surely we can say, everyone, it is a very difficult to understand the questions, because every question is just go ahead with the same perspective. Fine. So I already done numbers of the answer writings, everyone. I would just like to go ahead with the section on the democracy that I already told you that we are just going to attempt the question on the democracy today. We will learn that how the democracy is working actually, how you can correlate the democracy with the present time, and how the present time is somehow presenting the definition of the democracy in a very different way, right? So we are just going to start the democracy with the definition. We will try to correlate the meaning and the definition of the democracy in a very different manner, and we will try to correlate the things with the individual perspective, the social, the economic, and with the cultural, we can say the polity and the administrative as well. Okay, just give me a moment. Actually, I'm added numbers of the slides in the question, so it is a very difficult to reach on the slide. Just give me a moment. Okay. It's all about 334 slide, everyone, and we are already done the 334 slide. And the day before, I'm already taking the marathon session, and on this session, I already just writing up moreover, I think 10 to 15 question in my 6-hour marathon session. So those students still not watching the earlier sessions completely, just go ahead and watch the session, everyone. Okay, I'm already discussing the biography of Mr. Ambedkar as well. I'm already discussing the biography of the Kalam as well, everyone. Fine. So it's a 524 slide. Let's move ahead with the session of the democracy. Okay. Mr. Himalayan Yogi, okay. Okay, fine. Good attempt. I think the question that I earlier mentioned on the women empowerment, fine. It is not about the question on the women empowerment, Mr. Yogi. The question that earlier I was showing you on the screen, everyone, before the slide of the democracy, this question was completely based on the social religious movement. The social religious movement which occurred exactly in 19th and the 20th century. And on that question, yesterday I already discussing moreover 2 hours, which I already taking moreover 2 hours, where I am just completely mentioning about each and every dimension. I already mentioning about the role of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. I already mentioned about the role of Jyotiba Phule, Swami Vivekanand, Dayanand Saraswati. And in the yesterday's session, Mr. Yogi, I already mentioned about the differentiation, right? That how you can differentiate the two prominent meaning, like the social reformation and the social revivalism, and how you can correlate it and how you can differentiate with each other. right? And in the yesterday session I already mentioned about, definitely, Mr. Yogi, you have to be just go and check the yesterday lecture. And the yesterday lecture was completely, it just, I am just completely elaborated the whole scenario of the social religious movement, how the social religious movement is completely separated, what is the relevance of the social religious movement, how it is completely impacted in the future aspects as well. And it is somehow a very broad discussion in the yesterday session. So you just go ahead and watch the session. Fine. So now let's move ahead, everyone. In the today's session, we are just going to discuss about the democracy, right? What is the meaning of the democracy, everyone? And how the democracy is completely defining the meaning of the independence, right? So these are somehow we can say democracy and the independence. They both are a very important terminology, right? And this terminology is not only important in the context of the history scenario. I feel so. The word democracy and the word independence, this is somehow a very prominent and very prominent and somehow very sensitive, we can say, the vocabulary. And whenever you're discussing the different subjects, the geography, the economics, the history that we are taking in this session, that social issues, so in every session I feel so the meaning of the democracy and the meaning of the independence is always same. And not only same, somehow the different subjects just giving the definition of each and every terminology in a very different manner. But somehow definitely we can agree that the democracy and the independence is somehow a very important need of the society. And how the democracy and independence become the two sides of a one coin, not only the 21st century, but earlier when I'm discussing about the national movement, or before the time of the national movement, 1857, the first war of independence, we can say. Or before, if I'm just go back in the history, we have a time phase of a medieval India, we have a time phase of ancient time, when we have examples of already a Janpas and the Mahajanpas, where we are still just taking the definition. We are just somehow seeing the definition of the democracy and the independence is existing, right? There is a difference between the the sentence of the democracy is existing and the vocabulary of the democracy is existing. The word democracy somehow is completely, we can say, the new word, and it is completely generated in the 19th century, and it is completely a Greek word as well. But whenever I'm discussing the meaning of the democracy, that for the people, by the people, of the people, by Abraham Lincoln, we cannot ignore the democracy and its definition and its meaning is completely important, not only as the perspective of the 21st century, but if I'm discussing the whole scenario of the history from long past and ago, we can definitely see the definition of the democracy and the independence is somehow still is same, that we are taking the definition from last 5 or 6,000 years ago. Fine. So now you can see the question, everyone, on the screen, and this question is completely very important to everyone. And why it is important for everyone? This question is important not only the perspective of the lecture of the history, I would definitely say. And definitely I would just like to mention that you have to be, whenever you learn the term like democracy, the term like colonialism, the term like communalism, the term like secularism, definitely the meaning and its definition completely helpful to everyone, or specifically for the aspirants who are just going to write down the main specifically in the September exam. So this term is completely important, everyone, and this term is not only important as per the need of to know about the history about democracy, but this definition is completely helpful for you people to tackle the question in the we can say the examination, in the examination only, right? Okay, so you can see the question. The question is asking about the democracy and the independence, right? Examination, democracy is means what? By the people, for the people, and to the people. And independence is what? आपको किसे independence दे? Democracy, what is the need for the democracy, right? What is the need of the independence? They are somehow completely we can say the two definitions of the same coins, we can say the two words of the same coin, and we cannot separate the word independence and we cannot separate the word democracy with each other. Fine. The question is exactly saying about the challenges. The challenges of what? That India faced as a newly independent country and world's largest democracy. So they are just asking about the challenges, that how the challenges are working exactly. Okay. Right, we can say about the examination. First of all, it is very important to understand the question, everyone. So whenever we see the question on the screen or in the examination paper, definitely you have to understand what the question exactly want to say. The question is completely based on the examination, first of all, right? Examination. So in the examination, it is very important to mention the positive and the negative aspects of anything, whatever the question is exactly asked in the question, right? And earlier challenges, we can say the early challenges, and we can say, and what is the phase, we can say, the India faced a newly independent country and world largest democracy. So definitely we are just going not to mention about the examination of the question, but it is also very important to discuss about the we can say the world largest democracy and how the world largest democracy is working exactly, how we can just discussing about the diversity and how we can maintain our diversity with the keywords like democracy, with the independent, with the culture. So in the examination we would just like to mention all, each and every dimension of the question, the social aspects of the democracy, the challenges of the society, the challenges of the economy, the challenges of the youth as well, and how these challenges completely impacted our future as well. Fine. So yes, fundamental we can say regionalism and communalism. Exactly, Mr. Yogi. This type of a definition they are sometimes asked directly in the question. So communalism, that I already done. Regionalism I already done. Fundamental rights, definitely I'm just going to cover in the democracy, everyone. So this lecture is completely helpful for everyone. Fine. So you can see the question and the approach. So what type of the approach we are just going to choose? First of all, it is very important to understand the question. So what we are just getting from the question is completely asked about the examination, number one. Number two, the question is directly asked on the challenges, right? And what are the challenges? We have a social, we have a economic, we have a political, we have a administrative, we have a religious challenges, right? And number three, they are just asking about that how the world largest democracy is exactly working in the present scenario, right? It is somehow we can say the question is directly asked on the impact, or the question is directly asked on the factors, right? That the how the world largest economy is completely impacted and what are the factors behind it, right? So we are just going to elaborate the question. And what about the approach, everyone? First of all, whenever you sing the question, as per the understanding of the question, it is very important to understand and to mention about the approach, that what we are going to mention in the question and what we are just getting with the explanation and the examination of the question. So first point, it is very important to explain about the condition after the independence in the introduction. In the introduction, it is very important to mention the two sides of the democracy, before the independence and after the independence. It means in this section we are just going to discuss about the 1947, before and after 1947. Right? Why we are just mentioning that both of the aspects in the same question? We are just mentioning the both aspects in the question. Why it is relevant as per the need of the question? Because democracy is always needed, not only after the independence but before 1947. We are just looking for the independence or the democracy just because of the colonization of the British Empire of the India. Fine. So we are almost more over 200 years, we can say, in the history when the British colony completely exploit the Indian people, the Indian society, the Indian economy specifically, and and they are just completely capturing the administrative and the political system by the British Crown, we can say the British company, East India Company as well, and the the freedom, we can say the liberalization, the meaning of the democracy, the meaning of the independence is completely vanished and completely snatched by the British Crown and British era. So this is somehow we can say the very important aspects of the independence in the introduction. Whenever we are just going to define then what is the meaning of the democracy and how the meaning of democracy is completely changed as per the need. Right, in day before session, I already mentioned you people about specifically about the time and the space, that how the terminologies of in the history specifically going to be changed as per the need and as per the time. So definitely before 1947 we have a different meaning and different aspects of the democracy, we can say. Exactly 75 years of a democracy that we are celebrated. So before the democracy, before the independence 1947, what we needed actually, we just needed about the we just needed that we just want to get rid out of the British Empire power. Fine. And after 1947, when we got the democracy, specifically when we got the independence, so what we needed actually, we just needed in the empowerment, not only in the society, not only in the polity, not only in the administration. We are just looking for the constitution, we are looking for the rights, we are looking for the development, we are just looking for the empowerment and the education, and we are just want to provide the basic needs to each and every person. Fine. So you can definitely see the definition has to be changed as per the need. The definition is democracy, we have a different definition before 1947 and we have a different definition after 1947. When we are looking for the systemization, when we are looking for the constitution, and we can see the second point when they are just asking about the mention how it is created challenges for the Indian, both the external and the internal. Right, external and internal means what? External specifically when we are mentioning, when we are discuss about the, we can say the development, we can say the trade, the commercialization, right? And when we sometimes just presenting ourselves on the international platforms as well. So what about the external? It means what is the threat for the world largest economy, specifically for the, we can say India, that the sufferers we can say, and what are the challenges specifically for the international platforms. And what about the, we can say the internal basically when we are discussing about the regionalism, when we have a caste system, when we have a discrimination, when we are still looking the empowerment for the women, when we are still looking for the we just want to stop the social evils, we are looking for the equality. So we can say definitely the internal, when we are looking for our people, the sufferingness of the people as well. Fine. And in the last point in the question, everyone, we are just try to be conclude everyone about the mentioning about the Indian democracy credentials which helped India to survive as a nation. Some nation and the democracy and the independence, the three words are somehow, we can say, very important, right? I would just like to mention as example, mention about the democratic credentials which help India to survive as a nation. Definitely when nations, your nation, definitely it means somehow showing the patriotism and the feeling of the patriotism for the country, right? If I am talking about the country, if I am talking about the nationalism, and if I am talking about the some responsibilities of citizens, Indian citizens, specifically for the nation and the country. So I feel it is somehow a very correct sentences. And national level, we can include the democracy, right, and independence. And how the independence and democracy is working, they are somehow the sub part of the nations. We cannot imagine our nation without the democracy and without the independence, because a nation is somehow is giving the right to the people, that how the duties, we can say the rights to the people as well. So these are somehow a very important terminology, and you cannot imagine the nation and you cannot represent your nation on not only the national level or the international level without the democracy and without the independence. Nation without the external or without the internal. Fine. They internal, where we are discussing about the local issues, we can say, and external when we are completely discussing about the trade, their benefit, commercialization, the export, the import, and the image of the democracy, the world largest democracy, we can say India as well on the international level, right? So these are somehow a very important points. Now let's move ahead. Okay, democracy, we can say, in this section we are just going to discuss about the broad concepts, right? Exactly, Mr. Yogi, that the 75 years of the democracy, we can say, we are just going to discuss about the Amrit Mahotsav of the independence. Fine. So how the historical cannot limited the scope of a history. Just give me a moment, everyone. My voice is completely audible, everyone, or not? If the voice is completely audible, if the voice is completely audible, don't forget to mention in the comment box, everyone. See, the scope of the history, if I'm discussing, definitely we can say history in itself a very broad concept, right? And if I'm talking about the democracy and the definition of the democracy and the definition of the independence completely just moved time, just changed as per the need, right? In the scope of a history, we are just going to understand the word democracy in a very broad perspective, and how you can develop your broad perspective when you start to understand the history in a very broad and very intellectual level, right? For example, I just would like to mention, I would just like to explain, we can say history, right? Okay. In history, we have a different segments, definitely, when we're talking about the ancient, when we're talking about the medieval, when we're talking about the modern. Fine. So we have a different dimension. In ancient India, we have a we have a completely different definition of a democracy. Fine, and independence. In the medieval India, definitely we have a different definition of a democracy and independence. But in the modern India, we have a some definitely the definition of the democracy and the definition of the independence is completely changed, right? And how it is changed when we start to looking the modern India as the need of a democracy, because in the modern India, specifically from the definitely we can say from the 18th till the 20th century, the time phase of a more over 200 years ago, moreover the time phase of 200 years, where our democracy and the independence is completely changed, not only as we can say as the challenge but also as a need, right? Because we cannot survive without democracy, we cannot survive without independence. And how the independence and the democracy is completely going to be become more consistent and more in continue, when we are just completely understand the challenges of the democracy, when we understand the responsibility of the democracy, and in the democracy how the Indian citizen is completely playing the role of themselves. Fine. So in ancient India, we have a different definitions, definitely we can say. In ancient India, definitely we are completely aware about the Harappan civilization. We have a Vedic era, as we have a Gupta ages, we have a pre-medieval phases, right? Then we have a medieval phases as well. We have a post-medieval, we have a we can say the pre-modern phases as well. Fine. Then later on we have a modern ages, and we have a we can say the post-modern ages, the post-modernism. And we have a definitely, when we're looking for that still the 21st century, if I'm talking about the postmodernism or 21st century. Fine. So this is somehow a very relevant points in Harappan civilization, democracy and the world independence. The democracy and the word independence, they are somehow providing us a different definition. How they are just going to provide the different definition? Because in the Harappan civilization, democracy means where the people are just living their life in a very comfortable. Okay, I hope my voice is completely audible, everyone. The voice is completely interrupted due to the low battery. So just okay, what we are okay, Mr. Yogi. Now I'm audible. Fine. And whenever we discuss about the terminology of a democracy and the independence in the Vedic age, the Vedic age and the post Vedic age somehow is just defining the word of a democracy in a very different manner. From the beginning of the time phases in the Vedic age, when the people just looking for the democracy for the their comfort life, they're just enjoying the rights as well. But in the post Vedic ages, when we are looking, the situation of the women is completely just going to be worst. How it is going to be worst? Because we are somehow we are just suffering. We are definitely, we can say, when we start to suffering with the lackness of the awareness of the rights. Fine. In the Gupta phase, definitely we saw the different of the sects, we can say the hierarchy as well, and that the the development of the tantricism as well. Pre-modern, pre-medieval phases, we can say the Islamic era, where we are completely aware about the different definition of a democracy. The people like Akbar, the people like Babur, and the people like Aurangzeb, they are somehow completely giving the definition of the democracy and the independence in a very different manner. Fine. And in the modernism, when we discuss about the modern era from the arrival of the East India Company, and we have a different phases. If I'm discussing about 1757, we have a Plassey 1764, we have a 1765 as well, we have a 1857. Where we are completely aware about the definition of the democracy and the independence in a very different manner. In Plassey, where we learned about the democracy and the independence, that this is not completely up to the mark just because of the policy of the East India Company. And what about 1764, when that the Plassey and the Buxar is completely we can say change or drastic change in the Indian history. And the 1857, the first war of independence, is completely giving the next definition or providing the platform to the people, specifically for the Indian people, the Indian society, the platform where they can represent themselves, where they can discuss about the democracy, where they can talk about the independence. And somehow it is completely providing the platform not only for 1857 first war of independence, but also this first war of independence is completely become the the, we can say, the backbone or the platform for 1905, the Bengal partition. And later on the national movement, the arrival of Mahatma Gandhi, we have a Quit India movement, we have a freedom struggle movement. So this the word democracy and the independence is completely changed as per the need or as per the time. Fine. Exactly, Mr. Yogi. All India Service Indian Representation. ठीक है. Fine. So now let's move ahead, everyone. Now, what about the introduction? That 15th of August 1947, I think the day earlier, the 3-4 days days ago, we just celebrated about the 75th. I can say definitely the Amrit Mahotsav. Fine, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, where we are celebrating the moreover 75 years of independence, and moreover of a 75 years of independence. It doesn't mean it's a matter of celebration. Why? It is somehow a matter of celebration. What is the need of the celebration? Because in 75 years we are just completely learn not only the the meaning of the democracy and the meaning of independence somehow, but definitely we are completely make sure ourselves that we are on the next level, that we are suffered earlier just because of some of the issues we have suffered with East India Company's problems. We have a suffering of the developments, and we have a sufferings of numbers of the things. But after 75 years, what is happening actually, when the youth is just thinking about their own themselves, when we are completely just thinking about on development, when we have a rights, we have a constitution, we have a developments, we have a education, when we just want to looking India on the next level, and we just want to make ourselves more innovative, more developing, definitely we can say. That's why definitely we are adding that we are not just want to make ourselves socially, economically or the culturally better, but it is also very important to work on the innovation. And innovation somehow, not India is making skilled, but also somehow India is representing her democracy and its and her independence on the next level or in the different manner. Right. So introduction is what about the 15th August 1947 marked the end of the colonialism rule in India, and country found itself standing on the threshold of the new era, we can say, wherein the task was to build a nation. Fine. So how we whenever we so when we discussed about the nation, when we definitely end the colonial rule, and after the end of the colonial rule, finally we are just discussing about the numbers of the terminologies. We can say the equality, definitely we can say the social equality, right, the political equality, when we discuss about the basic needs, the fulfillments of the basic needs as well. Fine. Definitely, Mr. Yogi. So while India found itself independent from the British, it was the still to find the independence from social, economic, political problems that hindered India's growth story, right? So what about the social, where we are just discussing about the social equality, right? I would just like to mention the slide, everyone, where I'm just mentioning about the interdisciplinary approach of everything. In this slide, where it is very important to understand that democracy, we can say, and the independence, they both are not the different words, right? They are not the different sides. We cannot imagine democracy without independence. Why? Because democracy is somehow providing us the ideas. Ideas means what? When democracy is somehow providing us the techniques, democracy is somehow providing us the skills as well, that how we will get the independence. For example, we have a very good examples of 1947. Earlier, if I just go ahead in the past, everyone, we have a very good example of 1857 as well. We have a very good example of the Mughal era as well. We have a very good example of a modern age as well, where we definitely learn the meaning of a democracy in a very different manner. Fine. So what we exactly learned, that we cannot imagine democracy without independence, and we cannot imagine independence without democracy. Why? Because where independence somehow is just looking as a need, that we cannot, that democracy our need. And what is democracy? Democracy is somehow expressing our need. So what is the need of the individual person? The need of the individual person is social equality. The economically, we can say, everyone is looking, and the whole of the population is living in India either 200 years ago or in the present time. We're just looking for the fulfillment of the basic needs. And economy just is in 21st century definition, definitely we can say that it is not the complete definition that we are just want to feed the people. It is somehow the the standardization of the people. When people are looking in the economic investment, when the people are looking for the commercialization, when the people are looking for the economic benefits, and somehow numbers of the citizens of the India just looking for that how they can enhance Indian economy on the next level. Fine. The earlier, when we are just already giving the example of a nationalism, right, you can say, everyone, this is all about the democracy, we can say. And what about the independence? So what I already told you, everyone, I already mentioned you, everyone, that why we are looking for a democracy, because democracy somehow is a need of independence. Like independence is a need, and democracy somehow became the replacement of the need. And what is democracy? Somehow our expression, right? We can say the authority as well. So what about the social? When we are looking for the social equality, what about the economy, everyone? That I already told you that economy doesn't mean that it is only the fulfillment of the basic needs, food, shelter and clothes. Definitely these are the basic requirement of every human being in the society, and we cannot survive without basic needs. But in the 21st century, definitely the definition of the economy or the definition of the democracy and independence completely changed. Now the meaning of the democracy is somehow showing us the showing about the definitely we can say about the financial financial investment when the people are looking for their own empowerment, right, about the economic growth as well. And what about the religion, when we are looking for the equality in the religion, the equality in the religion, that the people in belonging from any of the caste and creed, definitely they'll just get the equal platform or equal religious status in the society. And cultural history, definitely democracy is somehow expression of whom, when we are looking for the diversity in India in the present time, we have a numbers of the people, we have a huge population as well. So definitely, if you are not using the policy, and if you are not adapting the policy of the diversity in the country, definitely we cannot fulfill the challenges in the democracy, and we cannot erase the and we cannot ignore the challenges of the democracy that we are just facing from past years. And what about the administration and the polity? Administration and the polity are somehow the parts which are helpful to make the system for whom they are somehow making the system for the democracy. When we are looking for the constitution, we have rights, we have duties, we have amendments, we have needs, definitely we have laws as well. So we are just looking for the system, because without system we cannot pursue your democracy in a very well manner, and without system we cannot enjoy your independence and freedom in a very fine manner. For example, we have a very good example of a Har Ghar Tiranga challenge that we earlier celebrated. It doesn't mean that we are just giving the message to everyone that India is celebrating her 75 years of Amrit Mahotsav of independence, but definitely Har Ghar Tiranga policy somehow is giving the the feeling of patriotism, the feeling of emotions to everyone, because we are just making and we are just looking for everything which is completely compensate the system with democracy, and democracy with independence. And democracy and independence somehow is just showing the representation of the society, economy, religion, culture and administrative polity in a very same and very equal manner, right? If you are not getting the equality at every side, it is a very difficult to enjoy the democracy and the independence. And the system that I am talking about, the constitution, it is somehow a very difficult task for us to completion of everything. Fine. Now, I hope the interdisciplinary approach is completely clear, everyone. See, whatever I am mentioning here, it is somehow showing you people as a good dimension of your answer, because any of the answer is completely, sometimes I feel is just going to be incomplete. Why it is feeling incomplete? Because when we are not going to mention each and every dimension of the question is definitely is a part of understanding. A question is somehow is a understanding the good approach as well. So these type of points and these type of explanation of everything, when you start to explain everything while making the headings, while making the points. For example, if I am discussing about the democracy, definitely the celebration of a 75 years of Amrit Mahotsav is a seriously a big deal for India. And when you start to mention everything about the 75 years of independence, when you start to mention about the administrative policy, the amendments, the rights, right, the cultural, the dimension, the religion, the society, the economy, and how is India somehow enjoying or just somehow taking the responsibility to make the democracy or the independence is just representing both the terminologies on the national level in a very fine manner. And somehow India is a very big country and world largest democracy. So we have definitely we have a numbers of challenges, but it is a very important to get to find out the solution, that how we will completely overcome with the challenges, right? Now let's move ahead on the next slide, everyone. I already mentioned about the introduction of the question. Now what about the body, everyone? Whenever you discuss about the mid body, fine, how the what is the provenance of the mid body, that how you can write down the mid body, and what type of the approaches that you people have to choose while doing the answer writing. Specifically, introduction is somehow just giving the glance of the question, definitely, but whenever you discuss about the exactly Mr. Yogi, that cultural democracy and examples, okay, fine, abortion rights, and whenever you mention about the body, is the body somehow just checking the knowledge of the candidate, that how much you have a knowledge about the specific question, fine. So challenges faced by the Indian post independence, we can say the internal challenges first of all, because I already bifurcated the democracy and the challenges in the both the section, the external and the internal. So let me discuss about the internal challenges. Like internal challenges it means, we can say definitely make the heading of internal challenges everyone. Fine. And the first point about the internal challenges, we have a first point which is mentioned about the partition and its consequences. Fine. The partition and the consequences. So what are the partition? What is the partition and what is the consequences? Partition was marked with the large scale communal violence. It is such a very this is such a internal challenge for us, that if I'm discuss about the communal violence, that you have a very good example everyone, right? Communal violence and partition not only led to the division of the assessed, right? It's a partition, it doesn't mean that we are just dividing the assessed. Definitely also created the huge refugee crisis followed by the origin of a Kashmir problem. That if I'm discuss about the Kashmir problem, that we cannot forget the terrorist attacks in Kashmir. We cannot forget about the the Mumbai attack as well. We cannot forget about the 370 act as well, which is completely implemented on the Kashmir problems. And what about the mass poverty? After the communal violence, the mass poverty is such a very, we can say definitely a very crucial problem, and we can say a very big problem for India, because with the poverty, India is not suffering from last 10 year 20 years. Poverty is somehow a very gradual process, and we are suffering from poverty from last, we can say definitely more over 50 years, where it is very important to decide that how we will overcome with the challenges of the poverty. And at the time of the independence everyone, I'm just talking about 1947, that the incidence of the poverty in India was about 80% or about 250 million, right? It means that moreover of the whole of the population, only 20% of the people in India before the independence, just mark the point, at the time of independence, like 1947, moreover 20% of the people were just living in India, who are just completely uplifted, and rest of the 80% of the people, they were still suffering with the mass poverty, when they were still suffering with the problems like basic needs, the problems like food, shelter and cloth, and the basic needs like they cannot uplift themselves. So poverty doesn't mean that they are defining in a one segment, right? Poverty, it is somehow just defining that we have a several of the problems. Even the problem is completely connected with your education. If you don't have a money, you cannot educate yourself. Definitely, if you don't have any money, you cannot invest anywhere. If you don't have any money, it's difficult to fulfill the basic needs, right? And this is somehow just creating the gap time to time, right? It is somehow creating the gap generation to generation, and this poverty somehow become the we can say the rigid and the internal problem of a democracy, which is somehow a matter of, not only the matter of concern, but the challenges that we are overcome of the poverty, it is such a very big challenge, and it is such a very big task for India. That's why definitely we can say that we are suffering from more over the 75 years of the freedom, still we are suffering with the poverty, still we are not completely overcome with the problems of the poverty. Fine. What about the famines and the hungers pushed India to take a external help of its food security? Right. We have a very good example of FDI, foreign direct investment. We have a big debate on the food security, that how you can feed the whole population, that how can you reach your how can you reach everything, and how we can reach the basic needs to the people, because famines and the hunger, they are not only a big challenge, or we can say definitely these are not the new challenges for us. If I'm discuss about 1791, about the Bengal famine, when we have more over 50 lakhs of the people were died, and were died. And if I'm discuss about 1891, we have again a second famine in Bengal, in again where more over 20 lakh of the people just lost their life just because of their lack of the we can say food. So definitely hunger and poverty, they both are somehow, definitely we can say sometimes we can definitely overcome with the communal violence. Fine. it is somehow, we can say, definitely it's not a big challenge. Big challenge definitely we can say, if because we have a different solutions. Sometimes we work on the security, security, the internal security, the external security as well. But whenever you discuss about the poverty, the problems like famine, the problems like lackness of the education, lackness of the awareness, lackness of the literacy, definitely these are the biggest challenges. Exactly, Mr. Himalaya. Aman Singh, definitely the agriculture consequences also can be written. Definitely you can mention it. But when I'm discussing about the famines and the hungers, and I already am giving the example of a 1791 and 1891, the Bengal famine. Definitely you can give the example. Definitely you can mention about the Green Revolution. Fine, but Green Revolution is somehow is a positive aspect, but it is not the challenge, right, Aman? So you just get just get aware of the point. Green Revolution, definitely it is a revolution in the agriculture. Fine, but whenever you discuss about the challenges, definitely, Aman, you can mention about the Green Revolution. Definitely just change the scenario of agriculture. But definitely Green Revolution, after the long period when we discuss about the impact of the Green Revolution, definitely we are suffering with the problem like irrigation facilities, the problem like the seeds, the organic farming, and still the Green Revolution, the areas like Punjab and Haryana, still definitely they are suffering with those the prominent problems. Still we can say the water problems, people are still suffering with the problem like cancers as well. So Green Revolution, definitely the revolution in the agriculture, but definitely it is somehow just because of the exploitation of the lands, the exploitation of the resources, it is showing the impact on the people as well, right? So this is the challenge about the Green Revolution, and we can say the agriculture consequences, the Aman, the whatever the question you are asking me, right? So what about the literacy, everyone? Again, we can say literacy when we are suffering with the lack of education. If I'm discussing about the present data of India 2022, if I'm just write down here that we are just on the place of a 131 in 146 country. So earlier when I'm discussing about the value addition in the question, right, in the literacy, or definitely you can mention about the literacy, that how the literacy is completely impacted our democracy, right? What democracy is, what is somehow just the, we can say the rights about the people, that how much you are aware about rights, the way you are using your rights. Fine. So this is all about the democracy. So how the illiteracy and how the lack of the education become the the lackness in the democracy or the independence. Definitely if we have a vast population, we have a huge population, if the people don't have any idea about their rights, about their own using of rights, we have a voting rights, definitely. But it is a very important to understand, and it is very important to realization of the people, that voting right doesn't mean that we just go ahead on the voting booth, just press on the voting buttons just because of forcing by anyone, right? The feeling of the voting and the feeling of the democracy and the independence is only we can say alive, definitely when the people have self realization, when the people is just aliving themselves as a self realization, that literacy and the awareness of the democracy, their rights, their independence are somehow not only the need of the nation, but definitely if you are seriously want to grow up ourselves, if you really want to showing ourselves a very good citizen, or just want to mingle ourselves in the developed countries, so it is a very important to overcome the challenges like illiteracy. Fine. So India gained independence. It's a population numbered about 340 million. It is such a very huge population, and no doubt the Indian government definitely just taking the initiative. We have a new NEP, National Education Policy, where we are just mentioning that we are giving the free education to the girls. We have a Beti Bachao and Beti Badhao initiative as well. We have a Kasturba Gandhi, we can say Kasturba Gandhi school educations as well. We are giving the free education. The states like Punjab, they are where they are completely giving the free education to the girls from the class first till the PhD. Right, we have a numbers of the example. If I am discussing about the Kerala, and the the state like Karnataka, where the GER and the participation of the youth in the education is completely enhanced as per the need and as per the demand of the system. Fine. So it is a very important, everyone. Okay. So it is a very important to understand about the now overcome the challenges of the literacy, and the literacy level then was just 12% of about the 41 million. So it is a very important to, I'm just discussing about the value addition, everyone, with that whenever you discuss about the challenges, there is a differentiation. Aman, the question he earlier asked me about the green revolution. Green revolution, we can say the objectives of the and we can say the initiative of the governments, they are somehow a very positive aspects of we can say of the nation, the positive aspects of the democracy as well, and the positive aspects of the independence. But whenever you discuss about the challenges, it is a very important to mention that if we are still standing on the position of 131 position out of 146 countries, so definitely we can say it is such a very worst condition in the scenario of literacy and the scenario of the education of the India, that we are just standing in the still 21st century on 131 position out of 146 countries. Right, exactly. Mr. Yogi, technical enhancements or advancement is again a very positive aspects of the democracy and the we can say independence. In the earlier slides, in the upcoming slides, when we are just discussing about the favoring and the positive aspects of democracy in the nation and the independence, definitely you can add the points of technology, the innovations, the enhancement, the GDP growth as well, the SDG goals as well. But whenever you discuss about the internal challenges, that famine, the mass poverty, the communal violence, and the literacy and the position of the India, it is somehow definitely we can say a huge and definitely we can say the big challenge for India, and it is a very important to overcome with the challenges. Because it is very important, why it is very important to overcome the challenges, definitely the need of the people, the knowledge of the people, the awareness of the people, and the generations gap. Sometimes they are just looking for the the policies like non-violence, the policies like just awareness about the growth of themselves. The education as the need is become need in these days. So it is very important to overcome the challenges of the this point that I already mentioning in the slides, everyone, the partition and the consequences and the mass poverty and the famines and the hungers, the literacy, and definitely you can add the point of the pandemic as well, that in the present time whenever we discuss about the dimensions of the question, I already mentioned everyone about the we can say it is a very important to correlate everything with the present scenario. So we definitely we can say pandemic is somehow just representing the whole scenario of democracy and the independence, right? And somehow definitely it is presenting the situation of the people, the situation of the medical, the situation of the hospitals, and somehow it is just targeting the government to enhancing their policies, enhancing their work culture specifically for the people. Fine. So you can definitely add the points of the COVID-19, the challenges, and how India is completely overcome with the challenges. If later we will face the problems like that. Fine. So now just move ahead, everyone. You can say I think this is not a very relevant slide, everyone, and definitely if you are very much interested to make mapping or sketching anything, so it is good to everyone that if you are going to mention about the maps, and when it is very important to understand, it is very important to representation in the democracy, in the independence, how democracy and independence completely just correlated with each other. So definitely you can mention about the Pakistan, the Red Cliff Line as well, everyone. New border went through Hindu, Muslim and Sikh villages. What did the mean? It is somehow mentioning about you the independence, the equality. We cannot forget about 1906, the Muslim League. We cannot forget about 1917. We cannot forget about 1919. Not only for Jallianwala Bagh massacre, but definitely we have a government acts where we were just suffering with the dual hierarchy system. Fine. high population living in the villages and dependent on agriculture, primary sector, small and holding, leading disguise unemployment and also needed land reform. Definitely, Mr. Yogi, you are just giving us such a very excellent example, specifically for the high population, the employment, why we are needy of it, because things are completely correlated. Now, how the things are completely correlated? Let me explain you, everyone. You cannot imagine anything without the dependency of democracy and independence, right? We can just, when we discuss about the democracy and the independence, we said we have external challenges and we said we have internal challenges, right? As the dependence and the democracy and the independence, if they are just completely dependent on each other, on the same basis, external or internal challenges are completely dependent on each other, right? And from the primary point of opinion, why I'm discussing the internal challenges, because it is very important that when कि जब तक आप खुद के अपने internal challenges को overcome नहीं करेंगे, so how you can improve your external challenges, right? That you have enhanced yourself on the international level, that India has become a world democracy, but India is completely going to be world democracy, and it is going to be consistent and continue for further years only when you are completely overcome the challenges of internal policies, when you work on the poverty, when you work on the literacy, when you work on the famine as well, hunger as well, right? So it is all about the development. Why it is important? Because democracy and independence is showing you the awareness, right? Awareness is what? We are just discussing about the poverty. We are discussing about the need of the education. We can say the educational need, right? We are just saying about the economic growth. The economic growth. Economic growth means the internal, we can say the basic needs. We can say the food, shelter, the cloth, right? When we discuss about the hunger, right? When we discuss about the safety. And here I think Mr. Yogi is already mentioning the very good example of the need of the employed people in the country. And I feel in the present time, specifically in 21st century, we have a more over 65% of the youth in the country, and still we are just suffering for the lackness of the development, the lackness of the employment. Sorry. Fine. So what about the poverty? Why we are poor? Because we don't have money, we don't have awareness. Why the meaning of a poverty is completely correlated with democracy and independence and the awareness. Because why we are poor? Because we don't have money, right? And we don't have any awareness that where we are just getting the money, right? From where we are just going to earning the money. And if we have a lackness of a money, it is completely impacted the educational need. You cannot educate your family, you cannot educate your child as well. You cannot educate the people who are actually needy of it, right? If we don't have education, we cannot spend ourselves, and we cannot participate in the economic growth. Economic growth, it doesn't mean that it's completely going to be full stop in the basic need कि भाई आपने रोटी कपड़ा मकान दे दिया उसके बाद कुछ अता पता नहीं है. It is a very, definitely you can correlate the point of awareness with the economy or economic growth. Definitely we have a numbers of the policies, we have a numbers of the initiatives of the governments. The government is taken numbers of the initiative to make the people to reach with the basic needs as well. So how you can make yourself more economically rich and economically we can settle down. Definitely when you start to aware the people about their own rights, when you start to providing the people the education, so definitely when the people gonna be educated, when they have a basic rights, भाई अगर आपके पेट में अगर रोटी होगी और अगर आप अच्छा खा सकते हैं, पढ़ सकते हैं, so definitely we are looking for the economic growth ना, right? So what is happening actually कि एक रिक्शा वाला 100 रुपए कमा रहा है और उसका जो complete एक focus है, he just looking for their basic needs. So how he or she can invest on anything, right? How he or she can invest anything. Investment के लिए बहुत important है that you have a lots of money, and for money it is very important for the awareness. And how the awareness is come? When you completely looking when you completely overcome the challenges of the poverty, the education, the economy, and the hunger. That I'm already giving the example of a famine of 1791 or 1891. And definitely you can looking for the safety and employment as well. Why the employment is needed? Employment is needed because we have education now in 21st century. That I'm not giving the data of that we are still poor, we are very we still are much very poor, we don't have any education, राइट सब कोई ना कुछ कर रहा है, उसमें कोई डाउट नहीं है. बट व्हाट इज हैपनिंग एक्चुअली दैट पीपल वाई आर नॉट लुकिंग फॉर देयर ऑन राइट्स एंड वाई द पीपल आर नॉट गेटिंग द जॉब्स, बिकॉज इट इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू वी आर स्टिल लुकिंग फॉर द इनिशिएटिव ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट्स that we have a youth, that we have education, we have a now the less poverty, we have a now less hunger, we have a moreover enhanced facilities as well. But still we don't have any jobs, and jobs are somehow creating the opportunity for the youth or for the people to investing the money. And this is all about the whole circle of the, I feel, the global development. That if we have a very good education, if we have a very good economic growth, definitely if we have a economic growth, definitely we can spend our money, we can spend our investment, definitely we just go ahead for the commercialization, we are just looking for the trade as well, we are just thinking about development, right? So that definitely we have to be enhanced ourselves from the basic needs, roti kapda makan, then only we think about on the कि भाई गाड़ी बंगला भी चाहिए होता है, ऐसा भी कोई सीन है. So it is a very important and basic needs of the, we can say, the Indian society. So democracy and independence never ever just going to be successful, yet we are not going to focusing on the internal challenges. The internal challenges might be the challenges on the poverty, the unemployment, we can say. And definitely whenever the challenge is completely faced, the people who are completely looking for the opportunity, but they are not getting the opportunity of the empowering themselves, or not getting the opportunity for the jobs as well. Fine. So you can see the map, everyone. Challenges in the Indian Pakistan, changes in the Indian Pakistan. I'm just showing the map just for the sake, for the knowledge, everyone. If you are completely interested, definitely whenever the question is asked on the democracy and the independence, and this map is helpful for everyone, I think, in every examination perspective. So it is a very important as a part of Indian citizen, as a part of a democracy, as the part of a free India, that we are already celebrating moreover 75 or 5 years of the 5 years of the Amrit Mahotsav of independence. So definitely you have to be aware about the map. And 1947, this is the map before the independence, and this is the map of a, we can say, now in these days, we can say this, the green section, that the people you are definitely, I hope the screen is completely visible to everyone. You can definitely see the map. The green portion is showing the part of a Pakistan, and this is the 1947, everyone. This is the Bangladesh, West Bengal, and this is the rest of the part, the greenish part, we can say, where the huge population of the Muslim is completely existing there, right? And somehow the existence of the Muslim, the existence of the diversity, the existence of the languages, somehow Britishers got the chance to choosing the policies like divide and rule, and they are somehow later on succeeded in the policy. And this we are just taking the results of the results of the division of the country, Pakistan and the Hindustan. Fine. Now let's move ahead. I hope this is clear to everyone. Now, low economic capacity. What is low economic capacity, everyone? Again, the low economic capacity is somehow belonging with the need of the economy. That I earlier told you, that if you are not completely getting to fulfill the basic needs of the people, surely, definitely, how we can just go ahead for the investment. राइट अगर एक रिक्शा वाला 500 रुपये कमा रहा है महीने के, या फिर 10 दिन में, फिर जस्ट रिक्शा वाला जस्ट अर्निंग मोर ओवर 100 or 200 per day basis, so how it is possible that he or she is just going to investing his or her money for the economic growth, right? पहले तो वो अपने रोटी कपड़े मकान को देखेगा, then looking for the investment later on. Fine. The low economic capacities means what? Stagnant agriculture and poor industrial basis. Industrial basis means what? In 1947, agriculture accounted for 50% of the Indian GDP. Fine. Agriculture accounted, definitely we can say, 50% of the GDP, the gross domestic product, right? And at the time of our independence, when we are completely free after 1947, that 60% of the Indian population depended on the agriculture for a living. Right, so what is the changes between after or before independence, right? Still we are saying that India has already a mixed economy, where moreover we can say 60% of the population still dependent on the agriculture, right? This statement that I am showing you on the screen, everyone, this is the same before 1947 or after 1947. The ratio is completely, sometime decrease and sometime increase as per the need or as per the time. In before the independence, definitely we can say the agriculture, the people who are completely dependent on the agriculture, sometimes due to the less industrialization in India, capital gain was less as well as employment also. Definitely, Aman, right? So what about the 60% of the population is, everyone, that before independence, if I am talking about more over 75 years, earlier 75, before 75 years of the, we can say, if I'm talking about 1947, before 1947, the time of 19, we can say 45, 42, 1940s, what we are saying that on that time India is also dependent on the agriculture, and moreover 80% of the population is completely, dependent on the agriculture. That fine, everyone. So what is the changes occurred actually after independence? Only 20% of the population, only 20% of the population is completely shifted, right? Shifted where? In the industrialization, in the jobs, in the marketing, in the investment, and we can say that when the people are completely looking for different jobs, right? So what about the 20% of the people? So it is somehow become the concern of the 20% of the people as well. The 20% of the people still are, satisfied with the policies, satisfied with the job or not. Because the scenario in these days is what is happening actually, the person who is well qualified, or the, we can say, still looking for the job, still looking for the, applying in the jobs of the PN as well, the grade D grade jobs as well. So what about the benefits of the education? Right, what about the education of the awareness? What about the benefits that we are getting after 75 years in India, for the we can say 75 years in the employment as well? So what is the differentiation? What we are getting after 75 years only, we are just getting 20% of the people who are completely merged earlier before independence in agriculture. They are just completely shifted in different sectors of the economy after 75 years. So 75 years, moreover we can say half or moreover the half of the decades that we are spending, the people are still suffering with the problems like poverty, the problems like employment, the problems like, we can say, the famine as well. We have a, lack of the security as well. So what we are getting actually, only the using the term of a democracy and independence is not only the enough word or enough explanation of any nation. Nation is only going to be become successful only when you start to looking for the people, right? In India, that I earlier told you, we have a more over 65% of the population, everyone, right? So it is completely the responsibility of the government, that government is looking for the 65% of the youth, their completion, their completion of education, their challenges in the opportunity of the employment as well, and what is the need, exactly the needs of the youth as well, or the government is the government is aware to connected with the youth or not, and is the government is completely liable to get to know the problems of the youth as well. Fine. So during the centrally planned economy phases, the annual growth rate is stagnant, राइट कि ग्रोथ बढ़ ही नहीं रही है, स्टेगनेंट है, रुक गई है एट द 3.5% ऑफ द हिंदू रेट ऑफ अ ग्रोथ फ्रॉम द 1950s 1980s, while per capita we can say income growth average is 1.3%. Right, earlier 1950 we have a growth of 1.3%, right, average growth we have, and this is completely stagnant around 3.5%. We can say it is completely stagnant. This is not going to be grow anywhere. Now, so linguistic reorganization, this is definitely we can say, Aman said due to less industries in India, capital gain was less as well as employment also. Fine, Aman. So what about linguistic reorganization, everyone? Linguistic reorganization, when we're looking for the organization of the languages. India, if I'm talking about India still don't have any national language, right? Boundaries of the British India province, right? When we discuss about the province, we have a Awadh, we have a Nagpur, Udaipur, Jhansi, we have a Bombay, we have a Kerala, we have a Karnataka, we have a, different parts of the India. Before the independence, we can say definitely province has been, we can say, drawn and redrawn in the haphazardness manner without any thought of culture and linguistic cohesion, and continued demand for linguistically homogeneous province, that people, for the people from south, the people from north, the people from center, they are just looking for their, they are just for, demanding for their own languages while looking for a, one language. Okay, Mr. Yogi, right? And what about the movement? Sectionist movement, Punjab's the Khalistan movement of 1980s, and insurgency in the northeast, and the Naxal movement. That Naxal movement specifically prevalent in the section of the MP, we can say, the rest of the parts as well. The central eastern India 1960s were in the biggest internal security challenges to India. Right, internal security, that earlier we discussed about the communal policies, the communal violence as well. Right. So what about the linguistic reorganization? We definitely, we can say this is a somehow a prominent, definitely we can say, the problem for internal security. But whenever you discuss about the sectionist, when the things are completely divided, when you're looking for the map, the northeast section, we have a south section, we have a western part section, we have. Okay, I hope my voice is completely audible, everyone. Okay, Aman, thank you so much for informing me. Mr. Yogi, thank you so much for. Okay, actually, we are just facing the issues of the audio from beginning of the lecture. I'm still suffering with the same issues, everyone. So technical issues are there, and it's difficult to stop by the human beings. कुछ चीजें हमारे हाथ में होती हैं. So I hope my voice is now audible, everyone. Can we go ahead with the lecture now? Okay. Okay, just give me a moment, everyone. Let me put it down, the rest of the, the rest of the cells in the battery, so that the rest of the educators not facing the same problem that I'm getting. Okay. Okay, so now let's move ahead, everyone. Okay, sectionist movement, I feel, I think I left the lecture from the same point of explanation, everyone. Sectionist movement is somehow just explaining about the, the problems in the Indian sections, right? If I'm discussing about the Punjab as a Khalistan, in 1947, when we were suffering with the division, we have suffering with freedom struggle movements, we have we were just suffering with the partition. I think Punjab is the only area, or we can say Punjab is somehow was the area which was completely suffered a lot with the, violence, when numbers of the people completely crossed the borders. We have a very good example of a Bagha border as well. Right, we have a example of Jallianwala Bagh massacre as well. Right, we have a communal violence as well. So that's why people are still, just emotional in these days also, and just looking for Punjab as a Khalistan sometimes. And if you're looking the whole scenario, we have only two prominent borders in the whole India, specifically for the Punjab, when we are looking for the Lahore section, Kabul, Kandahar, and rest of the parts. If I'm discussing about the the Kashmir part, we can say the Punjab, the Kashmir, the rest of the two prominent areas, we can say they are still suffered. Still, we are suffering with the the communal attacks and the terrorist attacks as well. So this is somehow definitely we can say insurgency in the northeast countries definitely, and we can say that Naxal movements, right, when the specifically people were not people are not completely satisfied with the present political bodies and the present political system, and these are somehow the internal biggest internal security, right? So these are the points. Now let's move ahead everyone. I hope these are completely clear to everyone. Now you can see everyone the map on the screen that I would like to that I already mentioned you everyone, right? With the partition we can see the map everyone, right? Balochistan, this is Balochistan, we can say Pakistan, Punjab, Lahore, Amritsar, Punjab and Chandigarh, and Haryana, rest of the part of Haryana. We are just not going to move ahead with Himachal Pradesh, Uttaranchal and Uttar Pradesh. These are not the part of a discussion everyone. Whenever you discuss about the the rest of the parts, about specifically for Punjab, the Pakistan, this is the midpoint we can say when we are just discussing about the the definitions of the Khalistan. And definitely when we can say that areas like Punjab and the Lahore, Kabul, Kandahar, these are somehow a part of a threat that we were suffered actually, right? We were suffered with earlier 1947 when we got the partition with Pakistan and Hindustan, and still we are suffering with the problems with the terrorist attacks, the communal violence as well, and numbers of the terrorists we can say the groups are formed in the areas of the Punjab, the areas of the Pakistan. We cannot forget the the name of ISI as well. We have a Lahore. We cannot forget the the Lahore as well. Numbers of the areas that we have still we are suffering, that we are scared still with the attack of the outsiders of the people. Sometimes we can say terrorist or the communal violence as well. Okay, this is the rest of the other part everyone. You can say this is the part of we can say now is not the part of Hindustan now, right? The yellowish part that you can see everyone on the screen, this is only the part of Pakistan in the present scenario, 21st century. हेलो मिस्टर शुभम मौर्य, गुड आफ्टरनून. मैं बिल्कुल ठीक हूँ. Okay, I think Mr. Shubham, this is not the part of a discussion actually. We are just discussing the serious issues on the democracy and the independence, and this is somehow the statement that you are giving in the comment box. This is not only worst, but this is somehow showing your silliness and character as well. So before I'm just going to block you, just stop doing all this thing. Fine. So, and you are not celebrity that I'm just taking your name numbers of the time on the online platform. This is education platform. If you're just getting the benefit, definitely you can just stay with us, or if you're not interested, definitely you can leave the session. Fine. Just move ahead everyone on the session. That I'm discussing about the section of the Punjab, the Lahore and the Jammu and Kashmir. You can see the map and you can just see the border lines as well. The threat, you can feel the threat as well, you can feel the attacks as well, and how the boundaries are and it is very difficult to separate the boundaries. The boundaries we have, it is very difficult to separate it as well. So we cannot forget about the rest of the part of our discussion about the emergency everyone. National emergency of 1975. If you people are completely interested to watch the whole session on the emergency, I have a video which I already uploaded on the channel everyone. You can just go and watch the session on the emergency, where I'm just already mentioned about the role of Indira Gandhi, and then what is emergency actually, what is the meaning of emergency, right? So we have a numbers of the clues and information that I already given in the video. So just go ahead and search the emergency, and definitely you will get the video. If you're not still getting the video, just kindly inform me later on. I will just giving the link in the description box. National emergency of 1975 as the government's response to the JP movement is considered as a dark phase of Indian democracy, right? emergency is somehow is considered as the dark phase of Indian democracy, and we can say curtailed the fundamental rights of the Indian citizen, shook to the foundation of the Indian democratical credentials. And in 1973, the date which it is somehow is completely, definitely we can say unforgettable, was a sharp decline in the economic situation. Right, with just because of the emergency, numbers of the people completely lost their jobs. They are completely unemployed, and the basic needs of the people, they are completely not liable to fulfill their basic needs as well. And combination of the growth and unemployment, it is a very definitely we can say the emergency completely not impacted economically, emotionally, but it is somehow we cannot forget about the time phase of the killing of Indira Gandhi as well, and how the way she killed. And rampant inflation and scarcity of a basic food and essentials commodities created a serious crisis. So what has happened actually in the emergency, it is not completely difficult to fulfill the basic needs, but definitely the emergency, you can say, what is the cause behind it. The security of any of India or any part of the threatened, whether by the war or external aggression, right, or armed rebellion, he may proclaim the state of emergency, right. And for the whole of the Indian or the part of thereof, and how and requirements, what is the requirement of a national emergency, is really we needed of emergency, right, and what is the causes and what is the reason and factors behind it of the emergency. Definitely we can say a proclamation of an emergency can be made by the president even before the actual occurrence, right. The power is completely shuttered down, the external aggression or armed rebellion, and if it is satisfied that there is a imminent danger, such a proclamation of an emergency can be varied or revoked by the presidential subsequently. And the president can issue a proclamation of emergency or vary it only when the decision of the union cabinet is conveyed to him, writing. And proclamation subject to be judicial review, the constitutionally we can say the court of law grounds of the malified, and when they are specifically not liable to mark the question on the action of the national emergency. Definitely we suffered with economic crisis, definitely we suffered with numbers of the problems. See, the earlier I already taken the session on emergency, so I already explained everything, right. Activism in terms of a basic structure saving democracy. Fine, Mr. Yogi, well attempt. Now, what about the external challenges, everyone? Whenever you discuss about the external challenges, definitely, so what are the internal challenges? What we discussed about internal challenges, not only the communal violence, not only the we are already taking the example of a national emergency, everyone. We already taking the example of a poverty, that how the people are suffering or just survival. They are looking for the survival to earn the money. When I already discussed the point of illiteracy as well in the internal problems, that why the people are suffered with the education. If we don't have education, we cannot get the awareness and we cannot get the benefit of a democracy and independence as well. I'm already mentioning the definition and the causes and the reason of everything. Definitely we can talk about the famine, we can definitely talk about the communal violence, the education, the economic growth, the GDP growth, and how I already mentioned you that if you really want to grow up ourselves, if we really want to achieve all the SDG goal till 2030, and in SDG goal, the poverty and the hunger is specifically a very we can say the crucial and very initial points of opinion and discussion as well. So this is somehow a very important challenges, and it is very important to overcome the challenges. It is not important, definitely we can say it is a need to overcome the challenges, because we don't have any time to waste just to awareing the people. If seriously, if we really want to aware the people, if we are just try to be aware the people, just try to be teach or preach the people specifically for the rights of democracy and the independence, the people just gonna be educate themselves slowly. So what about the external challenges? Global world order market with Cold War tensions, most of the developing countries, the people like India specifically, were bandwagoning either of the two superpowers, USA we can say, and the Soviet Union, earlier known as the USSR, right? United States of Soviet Union. Now it is completely known as the Russia only, not USA, it's the Russia. Russia. Fine. So whenever you discuss about the global tension, everyone, earlier we saw the the interaction between Russia and Ukraine. We are not going to discuss in depth about the situation of Russia and Ukraine. But definitely in this session, you can just imagine that how the Russia and Ukraine war, which is not happened actually, how the Russia-Ukraine is completely just impacted the whole global world. That's why the definition is completely just maintaining the balance between the Cold War and the Cold War or the tensions, right? And India followed a policy of a non-alignment, right, by Jawaharlal Nehru, to stay away from the Cold War politics and focus on its internal development, right? Internal development means what? When we are looking for on country, when we are looking for our internal development, when we are looking for on education, on literacy, when we are just want to vanish the problems of the people, when we try to educate everyone. Fine. So hostile neighbors when we completely agree or completely just want to feel comfortable our neighbors. We have a very good example of Pakistan as well. We have a very good example of China as well. And India had to face consequent wars with the Pakistan. 1965, 1971, when we cannot forget about the Kargil war, and China 1962. During the early phases of independence mean when India is just looking for the enhancement in the development. Fine. And this is not only hindered India's growth and created regional instability, right? That's why we are looking for our internal development, right? That's why we are completely refused the non-alignment, the acceptance of a non-alignment. That's why we are somehow completely accepted the internal development, where it is very important to focus on our growth and our development rather on the focusing on the other countries. Or it is not possible to compare with everyone कि भाई अगर अमेरिका इतना ग्रोथ कर रहा है तो हम ग्रोथ क्यों नहीं कर रहे. इट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड the regionalization, the internal policy. It is very important to understand the mentality of the youth, what the youth is needed actually, and how we can make the good policies to enhance and to make India more developed and to get the India on a better places, right? And the next slide, definitely I'm just mentioning about the conclusion, everyone, that how the conclusion is important, right? Conclusion is not, I think it is very difficult to conclude the whole democracy and the whole independence in one lecture. But definitely whenever you mention about the conclusion, everyone, it is noted that Indian constitutional principles of secularism, when secularism completely, definitely you people are aware about the equal rights. Fine. And the federalism when the state and the power is completely sharing the power with each other, and foundation keystone of an Indian democracy, right? So we are just using 2 or 3 words, the word like federalism, the word like secularism. Secularism, when we said that we India don't have any religion, right? India is completely secular country. India is just welcoming to every person who is coming from different parts of India. India is just welcoming the different the diversity of languages, the diversity in the culture, the diversity in the economy as well. That's why somehow federalism is completely giving the definition about the state and the center. We can say the division of the powers, the powers and shares the powers with each other. These are the both key points, we can say the keystones of a democracy, right? We can say democracy, we can say independence as well, right? And Indian democracy is a heterogeneous model with the vast social, religious and cultural diversity, right? Earlier I already given the example of a different culture, different languages as well. That when in the internal policy challenges, we already giving the example of the language reorganization. Fine. So still we don't have any national language, still we don't have any specific culture as well. but it is a very difficult to manage everything with the diversity, unity in the diversity, right? That we have a diversity, but how you can make the unity? Definitely you can make the unity if you're just completely focusing on the keystone, the word like secularism, the word like democracy, the word like equal rights, and the responsibility as a youth of the India as well. Fine. And social religious is what? Social religious, if I'm discussing about the the pre-independence era, that you cannot forget the time phase of a Renaissance period of India, 19th and 20th century. And in yesterday's session, I already giving the more over 2 hours lecture on the social religious movement. And in this lecture, social religious movement, it doesn't mean that we are just looking for the equality, right? Social and religious equality is just somehow representing us on the national level, right? National level. And what is the need of a national recognition of India, and why we recognize India as a world democracy? Definitely, definitely we can say that democracy is somehow just representing the independence of a we can say India like a, exactly. ठीक है Mr. Yogi. Fine. And social religious equality is just defining the democracy or the independence or the word like secularism in a very different manner. And it was predicted by Western political analysts. Yesterday I am discussing about the westernization and the modernization. Westernization is somehow is representing is what? The, we can say, the process, right? And what is the modernism? This is a change. So in the context of the Indian economy, or sorry, Indian democracy and the independence, why we are choosing the terminologies like modernization? Because we are just want to change very much things in the Indian democracy and the independence. Earlier that we are just giving the example of internal security and the external security. We are just giving the example that why are people are looking for the equal opportunities, why the people are looking for the equal rights as well, why India just make herself poverty free as well. So we have a rest of numbers of the example. Western political analysis, why we are just giving that we are not comparing anything ki westernization and kya hai and modernization kya hai. It is very important to understand that how the westernization and how the modernization completely impacted on each other. Westernization, definitely we are not just going to say anything against westernization. It is completely ideology, it is completely ideas of any country. So it is completely dependent on ourselves that what we want to choose exactly. If you really want to imitate the Western culture, it is completely our choice. If you really want to fond of to choose of a fast food or just wearing the Western clothes, it is completely our choice. No one is going to forcing you. And in India, we are not just going to bound or forcing to anyone, because we have already democratic country, we have a rights, we have a we have a fundamental rights as well, we have a fundamental duties as well. So it is completely on ourselves that what we want to choose. Democracy somehow is a need of a modernization, right? It is completely a need of a change as well, that we have a process, we have a format of a democracy and the independence. So what we really want to change exactly? We really just want to change in the existing format, that what the existing society that we have, we just want to change it, right? If we have a social levels, definitely we will definitely want to change it. If we are looking for a women empowerment, definitely we will work on the women empowerment, right? And what about the westernization? Westernization is just an idea. So it is completely up to you that what we want to get from the Western countries. If I am getting something beneficial, which is completely beneficial for Indian democracy and independence as well, definitely just go ahead and take the ideas. Ideas never have any foundations, right? Ideas that we are taking from anywhere, from China, from Pakistan as well, we have a Kashmir from as well, we have America as well, we definitely we have a Russia as well. So it is completely it is our choice that what we want to exactly what we want to get exactly. Fine. And what about the Indian model? It is very important to decide the model, specifically when completely India consider herself as a democratic, independent, federalist country or the secular country. So what is the model? Model is mean that when we are looking for the security, the internal security or the external security, when we're looking everything on the next level, when we're looking everything in a very perfect manner, when we just want to make the model with in a very, we can say the positive, just showing the positive aspects, when we completely make this model completely evil free. In this model, when we are looking for the women empowerment, in this model, when we are looking for the enhancement in the GDP, in this model, when we are looking for India is completely hunger free, in this model, when we are looking for the eradication of the poverty as well. So model doesn't mean that it is showing the any idealistic specifically, definitely model is somehow showing us the idealistic opinion in any of the country. So India have on its model, and the model is completely dependent on the democracy and the independence. And in the democracy or in the independence, secularism is somehow working in the mid path, or federalism is somehow working as a mid path of it. Fine. However, it was due to the Indian strong commitment. So what is the commitment? When we completely decided that we want to improve India, right? So how you can improve? When we just looking for the positive policies, when we are looking for the social religious equality, when we start to aware the people about their rights and their fundamental duties as well, and the constitutional principle. So what is the constitution? Constitution is just providing the law book, we can say the system is providing us, and we cannot exploit the system, because to maintaining the social religious equality, to maintain the good model, to just introducing the good structure, it is a very important to choose the system, and how the system is completely implemented. When we have already a very definitely when we already have a very good political or administrative structure as well, everyone. And what about the survival? Only survive as a nation, but also emerge as the leader of the newly independent countries. So definitely what we can say, that only survival as a nation, that it doesn't mean that we just want to survive a nation, right? Earlier I'm giving the example that the definition of the nation is completely suffered if you are not using the actual definition of a democracy and independence in a very right way. So what about the survival of the nation? Survival of the nation is completely successful with the people, and the people for whom? For the democracy, by the people, of the people, for the people. When we are completely discussing about the ideology, their rights, their opinion, and everything which is completely needed for the country. And what about the newly independent country? Newly independent country doesn't mean that we are introducing something new country. Newly independent country, when we looking the diversity, the unity in the diversity, and how the unity and the diversity is completely come out when we are looking for the equality in the society and the equality in the religion. So definitely on the another platform, definitely you can talk about the democracy and the religious democracy and the independence as well. Fine. So this is all about the session, everyone. I hope this session is completely helpful to everyone. And don't forget to like the session, subscribe the channel, and we can say just put it your comments in the comment box. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. We will just meet sharp tomorrow at sharp 1 p.m. where we are just going to discuss about different topics and different answer writings. So if you have a different choices of the topics, kindly mention me in the comment box. Definitely I will take the sessions on it. Thank you so much. We will meet sharp tomorrow at 1 p.m. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Yogi.